Being nice, you can still stand your ground, but be kind.
Hi, I'm Carol Podell, and this is She Takes the Lead.
Hi, party people. It's Carol. So today I have an interesting guest. Her name is Ana Salido, and she is a self-care and women's empowerment coach who actually started as in the world of psychiatry. So I'm going to just introduce her quickly, and then we get right to it. We had a great conversation about what your why is and what self-care is, and just a really fun conversation. So Ana is a self-care and women's empowerment coach. She's dedicated to helping women prioritize their own needs by creating sustainable self-care habits that allow them to thrive in both their personal and professional lives. With a background in psychology, coaching, and personal transformation, she's developed a unique approach that blends mindfulness, self-love, and practical strategies to empower women to regain control of their time, energy, and sense of self. After experiencing her own challenges with burnout and disempowerment, Ana recognized the importance of self-care as a foundation for success. Her journey led her to discover powerful tools for setting boundaries, fostering self-respect, and ultimately creating a life that reflects her true desires. She now shares this wisdom through coaching programs, workshops, and speaking engagements that inspire women to cultivate a balanced and fulfilling life. We all need that. Ana is offering insights on personal growth, empowerment, and the necessity of self-care in today's demanding world. Her passion for helping women reconnect with their power and purpose makes her a sought-after voice in the field of women's well-being. Like I said, she's a baller lady. So without further ado, here is my chat with Ana Salido. Hi, Ana, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yes, sure. So, as you can hear, with my accent, I am from France. I've been living in Australia for over 8 years now. My background is in psychology, and for the last couple of years now, or it's been more than that, I would say 5 to 8 years, I've been in the, coaching industry, working with women. And these days, I focus a lot on self-care and women's empowerment. So that's where I'm at.
What got you into that?
So, with my background, when I came to Australia, I went back to psychology, counseling, and then I was working a lot with couples. And, I was hearing the same thing from women. Every week, there was not a week when I wasn't hearing things like, I don't have time for myself. Now that I've got kids, it's all about my kids, my partner. I don't know who I am anymore. I am lost. I want more, but I don't know where to start. And it was just a theme. It was constantly. And that's where I was like, okay, there is something that needs to be done for women with that support, for them to go back to themselves, because there is a huge lack on that topic.
That's so true. It's so true. What was your movement into women's empowerment?
And it's really interesting because I also believe at some stage you attract, people that, it was these women, the way they were talking, it was me a couple of years ago as well. And then I realized, but hang on a second, I've got my own journey, what I learned and everything like this. Why don't I share, what I've learned over the years, to help and point, women that they don't know where to start. And I think that's where, I learned so much over the years. And some of the stuff, took me so long. And I was like, why am I not sharing more of this? Because there is a need for women, to be supported, to be guided, to be, just having someone in your corner, telling you that everything is going to be okay. You're fine. Do you know what I mean? But you need to go back to yourself.
As a psychologist, trained not to bring yourself into it. But on a certain level, when you start trying to empower a woman, it makes a difference. So it's interesting that you found this kind of in sharing your experience.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what really helped me? It's with the, like the coaching side of it. Because as you said, with the psychology, it's really, it's really what's the word I'm looking for? As you said, it's not about you. You don't share about yourself. It's really about concept and helping people. And of course, that's the main goal of a psychologist. But that was that missing part for me. Or there is a deeper level of connection. And I think most of the women I was seeing, during, the sessions with the relationship counseling, they were craving something more. They were craving that connection, that, tell me more about your story, Anna, because, knowing that you're not alone, it doesn't change where you're at, but it just makes it, like, yeah, right, there is a solution. I'm not alone. It's going to be okay. And it's also, it's really interesting because I think that was the missing part as well for me, during, with the counseling and psychology, thing. It was like, yeah, all of that is amazing. But even for myself, I was like, there is more that can be done. I wanted more connection as well. I wanted that empowerment. That's what I found with the coaching.
Could you share a little bit about your own personal story?
So I grew up, so I've got a younger sister, but we have like a big age gap. So it's almost like growing up as an only child. And, and I always be careful because, it's not to blame anyone, blaming my mom or blaming, anyone. I think, being a parent is as amazing as, and as hard as it can be. But, growing up, when you hear things like, oh, don't be, like, don't be difficult and, go and play with your cousins and, don't be this and don't be that, the, growing up, then I realized, but what about my needs? What about what I wanted, and I was just with boys. So it was always like, oh, no, but, just play with the boys and don't be, so then you bring that into your life, as a teenager, as a young woman, either with my friends, with my boyfriend at the time, saying no, or yeah, learning about my needs, what I wanted. It wasn't a thing until I realized, that the resentment that I had, it was my fault in a way because I was giving so much, but a lot of the time I had the feeling I wasn't getting as much as I was giving. Because when you don't say no, but some people, they don't have an issue saying no to you. You're like, but I never say no to you. So why would you, how dare you saying no to me? And that's when I realized that I had to go on a journey for myself and learning how to say no, set up, set boundaries and all of that because it couldn't come from anyone else. And it changed my relationships, my friendships with my family as well. I'm not saying it's always been easy, but it changed everything.
Boundaries are a big one for for me, but also I feel like most people that I talk to, obviously a lot of women, boundaries are a really big issue. We really bend a lot.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I think we do it, in all aspects, it's with the kids, with a partner, it's at work. And and I think there is a lot of guilt, that's what I hear, from most women. And yeah, I think guilt is the biggest, feeling attached to it. And then there is also, but I don't want to disappoint people and, I don't want, and some women as well, they tell me, yeah, but I can't do it. So why not? And I'm like, no, make the difference. It's not because you can do it that you have to do it. That's not the same thing. Of course you
Right.
can. Do you know what I mean? But do you want to do
Yeah.
it? That's the real question,
Right. Right. We always do have choice. It may not be the choices you want to have, but they are the choices and you always do have a choice. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Why do you think that is that we don't really see that so well?
I think it's also because, for us women, when I was sharing just before, but, when I was, a young girl and, being a child, I think it's because it's so ingrained in us, for us women, the way we are raised, the things we hear. So, of course, growing up, we keep doing it. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like, oh, that's what it is, And I make that difference, and I say that quite often to my clients. I don't know for you, but growing up, I heard a lot, like, oh, be nice, be nice.
Oh, yeah. I was so nice.
But see, now for me, there is a difference between being nice and being kind. being nice, there is an idea for me of self-sacrificing behind it. Be nice. You don't necessarily want to do it, but just do it anyway. Be nice. When being kind, it's like you can still say no. You can still stand your ground, but be kind. You know what I mean? That's not
Right.
that's not the same thing.
No, it's certainly not, is it?
Mm-mm.
I really find it interesting that women all over the world are brought up this way.
Yep.
Like all over the world, we're culturally different. We grew up in different countries and different backgrounds and different races and different religions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is a consistent issue for women all over the world. It's so funny, like that, how deep this goes. I mean, fundamentally, like in our blood, almost in our matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I know it's going back to how it was for women before, but yeah, it's getting way better these days. But I still believe we have still a lot of work that needs to be done. So yes, it's getting better, but it's also now we need to work on a deeper level, meaning that you and I, if we don't do, for instance, that inner work with the inner child, and do you know what I mean? The things we heard growing up, we can't pretend it's not there.
Definitely not. I think the opposite is true. It's much easier to address or understand or, I guess, overcome or move through when you actually know what happened, which obviously can be very, very painful for
Yeah.
some. When I have been able to change something, it's because I hit a moment that I was like, oh, this isn't working. And this is something that gave me a lot of pain before. So, how do I fix it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think, like the first thing that we need to bring awareness to something. If we don't have the awareness, how can we change something if we're not aware of what's going on?
Hmm.
That, it's like, otherwise, we just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And then, that's where sometimes we're like, I don't understand why it keeps happening to me. That's because we need to have the awareness first of, okay, that's where it is, that's what's happening. And as you said, it can be painful to face it. But I also believe it can even be more painful not to face it.
Amen, sister. Amen. So when you're working with a client, how do you get them to do that? I mean, the love languages, the five love languages, and that helps you kind of as a doorway into how to be loved, how to love, et cetera, to someone else. It gives you like a little bit of a roadmap. So when you're working with someone, women, on empowerment in this arena, are there sort of some consistent, I don't know if it's scenarios, but that triggered this or that are the experiences? Is there kind of a consistent pattern in empowerment or lack of empowerment in children that is you see more often than not?
Yes, absolutely. So, with what you were saying just before with the five love languages, that's something that I was using a lot when I was working with couples, because that was a huge thing. Most of the time we show love the way we want to receive it. But in a
Mm,
relationship, it doesn't mean that it will, that's what the other one will want. So what I could notice is, for couples, there was a huge, gap sometimes in between, with that feeling. But whatever I do, it's never good enough. No, that's because it's not good enough. That's because you're not listening to what your partner wants. That's not the same thing. Now that
interesting.
when I work, with women, the first thing, and 90% of the time, that's where I need to start. It's a mindset thing. Because as we were saying, it's just so ingrained in us that they want to look after themselves. They want to have that self-care. They want to have that connection with themselves. But when you feel guilty, when you feel like it's going to cost you a lot of money, when you feel like you don't have time, when you feel like you're doing that instead of being with your family. Do you know what I mean? It makes it, and that's why I'm like, change your mindset around it. Because if you can't see the
Mm,
point of doing it, it's never going to change. We're not looking for a quick fix. You know what I mean? We're looking like long term. I want you to have habits that you can use, like long term. self-care, it's not just, like, yeah, don't get me wrong, I love, a bubble bath and all that. I'm the first one. But the self-care type of things, I work with, the women, it's like it goes deeper than that, it's like learn about your needs, your emotions, communication, your body, it's just like, can we go deeper than, do you know what I mean?
I do. I do. It's very funny. Like we've sort of created self-care as an efficient pill. Like that, okay, I'm going to take self-care between 12 and 2 tomorrow on, Saturday when the kids are at soccer, but the place that I go for the self-care is down the street, even though that's not the massage I like because it's only foot massages, but I'm going to do it because and then now self-care has been checked off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's that's so funny.
I was there, at some stage in my life. So you book a massage, you go there, and then for an hour, you're just thinking, oh, I forgot that email. Oh, how is my grocery list? You know what I mean? And it's like, where did I put the soccer jersey for the kid this afternoon? And then you leave the massage, after an hour, and you're like, okay, amazing. I'm going back to my life. It feels like I wasted an hour of my time. And then some women, created a story. Like I hear that sometimes, oh, Anna, self-care is not for me. And I'm like, what do you mean self-care is not for you? What story did you create? Where is it coming from? But it's coming from the fact that you can go to as many messages as you want and all of that. If you don't do the work before, that's not gonna do it. Do you know what I mean? It's not, I can tell you for sure it's not going to work.
100%. I used to, I didn't actually get a proper massage until I was like, well, I think into my 30s probably. And it's magical. You feel amazing. But like, and you go to bed and you have a big glass of water as you're instructed to do. And you wake up and your problems are still there. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not the self-care is often not, it's the footwork. I mean, it's also going to get a massage or getting up, and for me, getting dressed and putting on makeup and doing my hair and just feeling, even if I'm working from home, there's like, there's pieces that I know, I'm not saying I always do it, just, but there are pieces I know that will make me feel better, which ultimately I think is what self-care, the point of self-care is to make you feel better. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm with you. The way I work, as well with women around self-care is, when I remember hearing that years ago and being like, yeah, right, okay, I'm sick of it. And now that's what I say, like every day. But the secret is what we do on a daily basis. That the small actions that we keep doing, that's what brings us, that sense of, yes, self-care, look, after ourselves, that sense of, having a routine, do you know what I mean? It's all about that at the end of the day, the small actions, because we can do it often. Oh, the other day I was saying you can go on a 3-day retreat, but if you do that once a year or every 2 years or whatever, that's fantastic. I'm not saying it doesn't work. That's great. But if in the meantime you don't do anything, but what do you think is going to happen? You're not going to have time to unplug. You're not going to have time. Do you know what I mean? The switch off,
Yeah.
like, okay, that's it. I'll leave everything behind. Your brain is not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the small things we can do daily or weekly, that's going to change everything.
I could not agree more. I could not agree more. And in fact, I think, I talk about change on here, and in general, I'm like a big fan of changing your trajectory or adjusting your trajectory because you do have say in it without having to like bottom out to do it. There are ways of doing it so you don't actually have to just hit bottom in order to make a big change. You can every day do a little bit more or do a little bit towards it. It doesn't always get you towards it. Sometimes you have to go back a little bit to get to another place. But if you move every day, you will continue to move.
Mm. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's also, I think we treat self-care, I loved it how you explained it, with like, it's like a pill, you take it and then done. And I always say, it's like if you were expecting, okay, this morning I'm gonna have a shower and I'm done for the next 6 months. That's not how it works. You still need to have a shower. It's like, how I'm having breakfast. So I'm good for the next week or so. You have breakfast every day? You have dinner
That's right.
every day. Do you know what I mean? You
That's
have
right.
our morning and, after a busy day at work. So why don't we see it, with self-care, that one-off thing, like, okay, I'm done, tick the box, I can move on with my life, and that's it. I always say, why?
That's amazing.
Not any different, you know what I mean?
Well, I took my shower in January, and then I'm going to pet my dog in February, and then I'm going to do my nails in March, and then I'm going to do a yoga class in April and just keep going. Yeah, no, it makes no sense whatsoever. I was listening to actually another podcast, and this guy was talking about working out. Like, he's a big workout guy, and he's a movie star, and he was just talking about getting into shape, men that are really into fitness, but then it becomes a disorder as well. Like, it's body dysmorphia, there's an eating
Yeah.
disorder and everything else, because it's not a gender, it's just a societal gender thing. It's not actually a gender disease. But what he said, which I thought was, for some reason, it permeated my head. The idea is you work out so you look better, but the truth is that you work out, but you have to keep working out in order to look better all the time. You work out to feel better, but you can't just work out once to feel better. So there's sort of an amount of repetition of it in the brain is very healthy. It's very important, but the logic around it, you're like in pain basically when you're lifting weights or doing whatever you're doing. It's hard on the body so that you can feel better. It's sort of counterintuitive on a certain level. The two opposite sides of that same piece just fascinate me. Like, it's good for you, it hurts. It's good for you, it hurts. It's good for you. I'm not saying it hurts all the time, but like, it's sore muscles, when they're growing. Like, there's all these things attached to it that are, I guess it goes back to what we were saying. Like, you have to sometimes go through some pain in order to have some personal growth, because you have to. That's how you grow.
Oh, absolutely. And while you were talking, for me, the word that came up, it's like that duality, of life, it's like, you go through pain and then you feel better. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't always have to be like this, but as we were saying before as well, sometimes you have to face the pain, so because you are facing it, then it's going to be less painful and then you will feel better. But the thing is, it's also, we live in a society, or in a world when we put on a pedestal, life with no pain. It's like, no, 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 like we're not gonna. But at the same time, I'm like, but can we actually really avoid it? Is it actually the goal? Do you know what I mean? I think we get it
Yeah.
wrong when when the goal becomes, like, no, it's avoiding pain. And I'm like, we learn. Don't get me
Right.
wrong. I'm not looking for it, like, I've had my
I
share.
understand. For sure. The expectation is that the pain is bad, or
Yes.
the struggle is bad. I mean, the pain, the things that are harder, the struggle. That's right. The expectation is that we should be living this life of no pain. But why? Where was that message given to us that that's the life?
I do believe it's also because we don't necessarily know how to manage our emotions. That we suppress a lot because we don't know what to do with it. We don't want to be disappointed. We don't want to be sad. We don't want to be any of that. Because, it's also quite often I hear, oh, but Anna, I'm not that person. And I'm like, it's just an emotion. It doesn't define you. I've got good days and bad days. Do you know what I mean? And it's also, people see, I think for a lot of people, they see, like, oh, to be, I want to be happy. So to be happy, that's where I'm going to avoid pain, disappointment or all of that. But that's not where you're going to find happiness. That's not what happiness is. Happiness is actually learning how to manage both, and learning how to walking with both, you know. For me, that's where you find happiness, because expecting that life is gonna be, always gonna be a rainbow and roses, and well, maybe you have more chance than I do, you know what I mean? But if I was waiting for that in my life to be happy, well, I will still be waiting.
Right, right, for sure, for sure. Do you feel like there are a lot of people that live their life just waiting to be happy?
Yeah, to be honest with you, a lot. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think the last decade or so, and like anything else, the personal development and the coaching and all of that, all of that is great. But I think it's also sometimes people, they see whatever they want to see. So there is that idea of, like happiness is a place to be. I want to be happy. I want to find that place. And then once I'm there, I'm not going to move. That's not, don't get me wrong, I would love that for anyone. I think that would be great, but it's also, we need to be realistic. The other day I was listening, same, a podcast or something, and a really successful actor was saying, but everything I've learned, and if I am where I am now and who I am, that's because of all the pain and everything, that all the failures that I went through, because I learned so much from that. Because if you are always in your success and happiness and you feel on top of your A game, you don't learn anything in that state.
That's so true. That's so true. And you can't actually give anything back. I mean, you can't give anything if you're like, oh, I know it. We're talking about, perfect pitch. Like people have they're born with perfect pitch. It's not just that they can hit a note. It's that there's a C that you can play on the piano and they hear that. And without playing it, they know that you're playing a C. And it's something you're born with. It's not something that you can teach anybody. And most people who have perfect pitch cannot really teach it because they have no idea how it got there.
Yeah.
So as I've gotten older, I've always had amazing girlfriends, but as I've gotten older, my girlfriends have become more and more clutch to me, and I've been toying with this idea, which I think is not an uncommon idea at this point, of soulmates, and that we have this preconceived notion that romantic soulmate is the soulmate of your life. Like that's the one that's going to fill all the holes. But ultimately that's not, at least in my opinion, or what I feel like I'm seeing. And as I talk to my girlfriends or guy friends really, but I guess I'm having that conversation more with my girlfriends, that my girlfriends or my friends are different soulmates. Like they fill a hole or a piece of a hole, or just one of the holes rather, that I need. And they are equally as important, as if not maybe more sometimes, or that it's like an egalitarian level. It's all on the same level, that romantic love is, but I feel like it's been put on a pedestal, as you said. When you were doing couples therapy versus now that you're doing this, especially with women, what are you finding in the difference?
Yeah, that's, once again, that's really interesting because it's the number of time I had, to, remind my clients that one person, you can't have expectations on one person to fulfill, all your needs. Do you know what I mean? I think it's an unrealistic expectations, but that's the same around, relationship, couples being married, that, happily ever after, you get married and all of that. And all of that is amazing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it needs to be hard, but it requires, some work. And, once again, there is a lot of, ideas or cliches, or, once again, you put on a pedestal, what life with someone, should be. And I'm like, good luck with that. Good, really, if you can, that's amazing. It's amazing, but good luck. That's the best thing I can, that's the best thing I can tell you. So, there is that. And then there is also, once again, for a lot of women, because they stop being themselves, they lose themselves over time. It happens for men as well, don't get me wrong, but it's also because I work with women now. That's where I talk more about women. But women, they lose themselves so much over time. And then, they have a lot of expectations on their partner as well. It's not like, oh, but you should know better, or you should know me, or you should, but you don't even know yourself anymore. Do you know what I mean? So how can you have expectations on someone else when, that person can't love you in a way that you're not even loving yourself at the moment? Do you know what I mean? And I think that's why as well, for women, going back to themselves, I always say to them, if you think it's selfish, you got it wrong, because by doing that work, then it's going to have such a positive impact on your relationship with your partner, the relationship you have with your kids, the relationship with your girlfriends, because you're going to show up in such a different way. You know what I mean? It's absolutely insane, the change. So I said to them, I said, change that perspective. If you think it's selfish, see it as an investment, for yourself, but also for all the relationships you have around you, everyone around you, because the way you show up is going to be really different.
What in your mind is the perfect elements in a relationship? Air quote perfect, we'll say. Or what are the key elements that have you found in the truly successful relationships?
Yeah, I think in a way, but it's also the other aspect is communication. And that is huge. But once again, might be cliche what I'm saying, but we grow up so much with that idea of, the good girl, be a good girl, be nice. So then we don't voice what we want, our needs, we don't necessarily know how to do it. And it creates resentment. And I always say, for me, the biggest killer of any marriage, that's resentment.
So true. So true.
But it's also the resentment. Sometimes we can have it with a girlfriend, for instance. Do you know why? It's not just with a partner.
Oh, 100%. Of course.
And that comes back for me to communication. And because we don't know how to do it, we are scared. We created a story around, it's not safe for me to talk about my needs. But it's also, to be honest with you, it goes even deeper than that. But that's some women I work with. They don't even know what their needs are.
If you don't really know yourself, I'm just starting to figure it out. If you don't know yourself, then how are you going to know what your needs are?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm.
So, but once again, I'm going back to that. But then we have expectation, on a partner that they should know, or girlfriends, like me, so do better in a way. But that's not how it works. We need to show up for ourselves first, and then and I always say, and the way I describe it to the women I work with, I'm like, remember a time, when you went somewhere and you saw a woman, coming into a room and you don't even know why, but you were looking at her. I said, what was it? The way she was carrying herself, the way she was walking, the way she was. Said you didn't even talk to that woman, but you just you noticed her. I said, that's how you show up for yourself. That's what it means on a physical level. Because, as human beings, we need to see, because most of the time what I talk about, it's not something we can't see it, it's not something we can see, but
For sure.
that's the best way to describe it. You want a physical expression of what that is, to show up for yourself and for other people to notice you. That's what I'm talking about.
That's so great that you have a physical expression or that you have an image of what you're going towards. I think that's such a helpful tool. I think I'm going to use it, I think. And you can take action on a lot of this, but ultimately, it's a feeling, right?
Yes.
It's not necessarily an image, and you can't always find the feeling, because if you're not experiencing the feeling, you're not going to find it. So having an image, it's such a great tool to find it. So I always find people talk about breakthroughs, right?
Yep.
And they're like, I had a breakthrough. And for me, I mean, I've had breakthroughs where I realize something, but they're never, in my own experience. And I've been seeing a psychiatrist for 20 years now. I've done a lot of work on myself over time, some for better, some for worse. Some was a hot mess, some I'm very proud of. It doesn't all land the way it's supposed to, but here we are. Do you believe in the idea of having a breakthrough and it's suddenly the earth opens up? Because I guess I've been thinking about, I keep hearing more and more about ayahuasca as a way of opening your mind up, and it interests me because my own experience is I get on the yoga mat, and that's a regular practice. It actually, if you don't do it regularly, there's a few things you can do, but you do remember it. But ultimately, the regularity as well as the slowness of the practice is what, even if it's a vinyasa, it's still slower. So how do you feel about those kinds of breakthroughs, whether that's ayahuasca and a drug or just general breakthroughs that one has, and what the impact of that is on growth in your field?
So I'm with you, in a way that for me, I've never really, I've had some, over time when, you've got that big, that realization, about something, or you're just but that big breakthrough as we can, some people talk about it, never experience it. So I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it's also, I think for a lot of us, we love a big breakthrough, like a big, thing happening. And don't get me wrong, if it happens, that's fantastic. But then be ready as well to go through it, because, it can open up to some stuff things that we're not necessarily ready to deal with. And it's not because it opens something that things are going to change without actions. And that's going back to what you said, and I think we as human beings, and I'm the same in some aspects of my life, I'm not going to deny it, but we love a quick fix, like a quick solution. We live in a fast-paced world, like in a split of a second, you order food on the Uber Eats, 15 minutes later, it's at your door. You know what I mean? You order on Amazon, 2 days later, same at your door, amazing. So I'm not saying a breakthrough doesn't work. It's not about that, but it's going to open up to something. Yeah, that's for sure. But then something still needs to be done. It's not going to fix everything because we have a breakthrough as big as it can be. Do you know what I mean? And I think we
Yeah.
forget the actions that needs to happen afterwards. What do we do with the breakthrough?
It's a new buzzword, I guess, or at least to me, like habit stacking. So I recently found out that I was ADHD. I'm dyslexic. I've known that since I was a kid, but I think I've probably been this way for a long time. It's certainly gotten worse since I'm going through perimenopause and my hormones have changed tremendously. I was on fertility for 4 years before I had my daughter. So like all of that definitely, I think, contributed to it. But it is an interesting, I'm needing to have it stack, and the way that I was looking at it was that I literally was starting from square one in creating new habits. My quote unquote breakthrough, or my really realization as trying to create new habits wasn't really working for me, was that I needed to adjust the habits I'd been. I'm 51 years old. I've been around for a minute. The habits that I have weren't really serving me. It doesn't mean everything about those habits weren't serving me, but ultimately those weren't serving me. So the idea that I was going to become this other person now, as I tried to every day do something different, it wasn't working. Ultimately, it was just like, then I'd have to become an entirely different person with a different wiring or a different past, I guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, I absolutely hear what you're saying.
Keeping that moving in terms of like your habits, what habits do you feel like are really good practices? Like give me three like really good regular practices that kind of help you build empowerment. I know that these three things generally will help a person kind of key into regularity and understanding what those small actions feel like in their body, so then they can kind of jump off from there.
Yeah, okay. No, I hear what you're saying. The, the thing I always say to women, and even when we have kids, and I understand when we have young kids, how tricky it can be and all of that, absolutely. But the thing I always say is start your day by doing something for yourself. Because, and I was there, and I know I still do it some days, less and less. I'm not gonna pretend, but when you wake up, first thing you do is you grab your phone. You see 1,000, notifications from whatever, social media, emails, whatever. You start with your emails. You just woke up that your nervous system is buzzing already. Do you know what I mean? You're
Wow.
just like, and then you get up and then you start your day and so I'm like, just start by, can you just leave your phone for, you wake up, amazing, leave your phone, just scan your body. How am I feeling? Did I sleep well? Yes, slept okay. Just almost have a chit chat with yourself, like just scan your body. How are you? Like it can be even like a 2-minute meditation sort of things while you're in bed. No one needs to know. There is no big fuss around it. Do you know what I mean? But that's it. And that, things like this, when you keep doing it, it's not going to change if you have a bad day. You know what I mean? It's not going to change the fact. And for plenty of women, as well, it's like, yeah, but Anna, it's not going to change my day. No, it's not going to change your day, but it's going to change the way you react to your day. And that is huge. That's the secret. Once again, we're not trying to avoid, it's not because you're going to do all of that you're going to avoid the bad things that could happen during the day, but it's going to help you to react in a better way to it. That's the secret. Once again, we are not the goal. I'm not selling something. I'm not saying like by doing that, all the pain in the world and in your life is going to disappear. That's not what I'm selling. You know what I mean? That would
If you were
doesn't make
selling
any
that,
sense.
you'd be on the cover of Time magazine.
Do you know what I mean? So I think it's also remembering If we can't get it wrong, with the goal as well and why we do what we do. So, it's like remembering as well why, the why. I always say, if we lose the why, we lose our way.
Oh, that's so good. That needs to be on a pillow. If we lose the why, we lose our way. If we
Yeah.
lose the why, we lose our way. And that's so smart. And it's in everything, really, right?
Oh,
I mean, it's in all of the things. It's in your relationships, it's in your friendships, it's in your romantic relationships, it's in your
it's,
work, it's in
yeah,
your
work.
dreams, it's in your hobby, whatever.
Oh yeah, like your fitness journey, whatever that is. But the why, it's what's gonna help you, when it's gonna be a hard day and you don't necessarily have the motivation. So then you go back to your why, and it's like, yeah, that's it.
If you lose your why, you lose your way. I'm going to put that on a pillow. I'm going to put that on my pillow. What is your why, or what are your whys?
With my work, for me, is I want to see, as challenging as it can be sometimes for anyone else, for me is I want women, and as many women as I can, to impact them and to change the way, about everything we talked about, around that self-care, around that self-sacrificing, around, I just women to show up the best way they can and to support one another for things to truly change, because things are changing, yes, but it's like a surface level. Don't get me wrong, it was even just 40 years ago, we couldn't vote, we couldn't open a bank account without, like a man. I'm fully aware, but at the end of the day, it's not that long ago, and still a lot of work needs to be done. And for me, that's my why. I want women, I really want things for women to change.
So tell me, how do people reach you? Tell me what you are up to.
Yes, so it's on Instagram these days. That's where I share. I share a lot. I love it. Love the platform. I think it's a good way to connect, because you can text, you can comment, you can. I think it's a really good way, to connect with people. So social media. That's the best way to find me and to interact with me. Then I've got my website. So anasalido.com, just my name. And I heard some women telling me, okay, can we have like someone shorter than your signature program, which is 3 months, something shorter for us. So 4 weeks program called the Modern Woman, that communication, boundaries, your needs, going through all of that, as a good way to start, with that, sense of self-care. But for me, the self-care, we're gonna start with the self.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you like what you heard, please hit subscribe. Also, if you want to keep in touch, go to Insta at About a Blonde or Facebook at About a Blonde Official. Also, you can sign up for my mailing list at www.aboutablonde.com. Have a great day. Mwah!